What's up, guys? Welcome back to Hooked Poker, episode 2. Thanks for all the support you guys had on the first vlog, running that up. It's really great. Love to see it. But, yeah, these hands that we're playing are from a couple of sessions we played at the Viking this past week. 1-3 once again. And there are a couple of hands that included the same player, Nike, who we pointed out throughout the vlog. A lot of interesting hands against him in the past, in this vlog, and I'm sure in the future. So I hope that you enjoy these upcoming hands, and we'll see you in the outro. Peace.
All right, guys, so the first interesting hand to note here, I have two black nines on the button. Under the gun limps, and under the gun +1 raises to $15. So I'm really respecting his range here, so I decided not to put a 3-bet in and just call in position and hopefully set mine, or maybe have an overpair on the right board. And the big blind also calls the $15. The flop is beautiful. 3 of spades, 9 of hearts, 7 of clubs. We flop the nuts. We have top set. And under the gun +1, continuation bets for $30. In position here, I'm going to be able to see a lot more cards and see what he wants to do next. And it's a super dry flop, so I just decide to make the call. And the big blind decides to tank for a minute, and he ends up folding. Now we're going to head off to the turn, which is the king of clubs, a great card for me. I'm hoping my opponent maybe has ace-king where he c-bet that flop. It was a dry flop. 90% of the time he's going to be able to take that down. But now he double barrels and he bets $35. In this particular instance, normally when low-stakes players bet almost the same or very similar bet sizings, they have a pretty weak hand. So even if I did have a flush draw in this instance, I would still decide to make this raise to try to take the pot down. So I decided to raise it to $100. I got to pump money in the middle. I'm trying to play for stacks with middle set here. And I'm trying to get it all in by any non-club and clean river. Now my opponent tanks for a while, so I'm putting him on a hand maybe like ace-king or maybe king-queen or maybe a small middling pocket pair or maybe even a 9x holding that's just trying to hold on and he thinks I'm on a flush draw. But after some time, my opponent does end up making the call and we're off to the river. The river is the 7 of spades, not only giving us a boat, but also it eliminates other set possibilities that I'm representing here, like pocket sevens. So it might make my opponent's call a little bit easier. He checks it to me, and I decide to jam all in for his remaining $155, and my opponent makes the call with pocket eights.
In this next interesting hand, we look down at ace-jack offsuit in middle position, and under the gun opens to $12. So we decide to 3-bet this one up to $24, which I know what you guys are thinking. This dude's a fish. He sucks. And yes, I do suck. But I just decided to mess around with this player, have some fun, and min click it back to him. But whenever the button calls and the original opener also calls, I know that he's probably pretty weak, or at least at the bottom of his under the gun opening range, because normally you would want to 4-bet that to such a small raise, especially with the button player calling. You're not going to want to play this hand out of position. But he just called, so I feel pretty good about ace-jack being ahead. So when the flop comes queen 9-4 with 2 hearts, I decide to c-bet for $35 to rep a queen. All my ace-queens, ace-king, pocket kings, pocket aces, or king-queens. And both players make the call. So now I figure at least one of them's on a draw, or pocket pair, or maybe they hit top pair. And whenever the turn comes a king, this just destroys my pre-flop 3-betting range. So I decide to bet again for $75. And the button player folds, but the under the gun player makes the call, which I'm not really sure what he could have here because he doesn't have too many kings calling on the flop to a $35 continuation bet. And so I figure he probably just has a queen or maybe like a gutter or something that's not too strong. So whenever the river comes a 5 of hearts, completing the flush draw, and he checks it over to me, I feel pretty confident that he's still weak because I feel that if he would have hit his flush, he probably would have led the river because there's so many hands that I would just check it back with, such as ace-king, ace-queen, or maybe even pocket aces I would check it back. So I feel pretty confident that he has a weak hand, and also I'm not going to take my ace high to showdown So I bet $200, pretty confident that I'm going to win this one. But when the opponent goes in the tank, he eventually comes to the conclusion that he is going to make the call. And we lose to King Jack for a flopped gutter and a top pair on the turn.
All right, guys, in the next hand here, we look down at the beautiful pocket aces, 2 black aces in the big blind. We had 5 limpers to the flop. That's not going to happen. I'm in the big blind. I got pocket aces. I'm raising. I raise it to $23. Under the gun makes the call, and the second limper makes the call. We get a pretty beautiful flop, queen, 9, 7. 2 diamonds, queen of diamonds, 9 of diamonds. So there's a lot of draws here. There's potential flush draws, potential straight draws, and a lot of, queen X holdings that I'm going to be able to get value from. So I bet 35 on the flop, and both opponents make the call. So that's, an interesting ordeal here. But as I'm thinking, I'm seeing, okay, one person most likely has a straight draw or a flush draw, and the other person probably has a queen. So the turn is an amazing card for me. It's the 7 of hearts. So now I have 2 pairs, so I'm ahead of queen 9 now, and it eliminates set possibilities such as pocket 7s. And I decided to bet $80 on the turn, covering my opponent to the left. He tanks for a minute, says, F it, I'm all in, and he goes all in. And then my other opponent that also limped originally, he decides to make the call for $80, and we're going to be heading off to the river. At this point in the hand, I'm thinking, okay, so the guy to my left most likely has a diamond draw that went all in, and the other opponent and most likely has a queen X holding that he's just holding on, and I'm going to try to get value of him on the river, on a non-diamond or non-straightening card river. He makes the call. Now as we head to the river, we get the king of spades. So this is an interesting card because I put my opponent on a queen X holding, and now king queen gets there, but obviously we're ahead of that. We have a better 2 pair. We have aces up with the 7 on the board, and I decided to jam all in for his remaining stack. He pretty quickly snap folds, later telling me he had a queen with a diamond, and my other opponent mucked. Pocket aces are good, baby. We're going to scoop in a big one.
For the 3rd time this vlog, Nike is making a featured appearance. We look down at queen jack offsuit on the button, and there is a limper and a middle position raised to $12, and we decide to mix it up and get in on the action on the button, as well as the big blind, he calls. So the flop comes queen 3-3 with 2 clubs, and it checks around to me. I decide to bet for value $20 with my top pair, and only the big blind, Nike, calls. And Nike is actually the main player that I was concerned with on this flop because he's the player that could have all the 3s playing in the big blind. He just called for $9 more. He could have pretty much any suited 3, really. So he could be trapping, which was in the back of my mind, so I'm going to go cautiously on the turn. So the turn is the 9 of hearts, doesn't change the board too much, and the big blind checks it over to me, so I continue betting for value with a $50 bet. Now, when the villain only calls, I'm putting him on a middling pocket pair or a weak queen or something that's just really trying to get to showdown cheaply and not build this pot. Because I figure if he has a 3 now or a big hand, he's definitely going to want to raise and deny equity from the obvious flush draw and also just get value out of my hands, such as, king, queen, queen, jack, which is what I have. The river comes down an offsuit jack, giving me top 2 pair, and when the opponent checks it over to me, once again, I know he doesn't have a huge hand because he would probably want to lead this river because I'm checking back a lot of my weak queen X holdings or middling pocket pairs I might play like this, just trying to get to showdown myself. So any big hand he would have, he's definitely going to be betting big on the river. So I'm fairly confident that I have the best hand here. Now, when I'm analyzing the situation, deciding on how much to bet, I decide to size up huge because my image at this table is extremely loose, having showed down multiple big bluffs in the past, including in this session against this same player with ace-jack earlier this vlog. So I decided to try to rep the missed flush draw and jam all in for $216 over betting the pot. The opponent tanks for a bit, claiming to not have a very strong hand, but at the end of the day, makes the call, and we win with top 2 pair.
All right, guys, Joe here, and for the last interesting hand to note, I don't always just play premiums, so I'm in the small blind with 8-9 of hearts, and there is an under-the-gun $6 straddle here. There's one limper of the $6 and a cutoff raise to $25. Now, I did have a live read on this particular opponent, and it almost seemed like he wanted to limp, so I thought he was definitely weak in this instance and just trying to take the dead money down. So when he raises 25, I see this is a perfect squeeze spot in the small blind, so I make it $80, and he decides to make the call. So at this point, I'm putting on maybe a small pocket pair or like an offsuit Broadway, something like that. And we get a pretty good flop here, 6-4-8, with the 6 of spades, the 8 of clubs, and the 4 of hearts. And with top pair here, I think I'm good here a majority of the time. So I decided to bet $50 for value and to deny equity from any overcards or potential flush draws and straight draws. And my opponent pretty quickly makes the call. Now, as we head to the turn, it is another beautiful card, the deuce of hearts, now giving me a flush draw as well to go along with my top pair. And I have a little less than a pot-sized shove left, and I think this is a perfect time to just grip it and rip it, and it gets the job done. My opponent makes the fold, and we scoop another pot.
So the last hand of this episode, we look down at ace-jack offsuit once again in the small blind, and there are 3 limpers to us, where we decide to make it $18. Just because, standard opening's normally $12, but with a couple limpers, you're going to want to size up because the pot's bigger and you need to charge players to get into the pot and see the flop. So for $18, the big blind, hijack, and button all make the call. The flop comes down jack 8-5 rainbow, perfect, giving us top pair, top kicker on a relatively dry board. So we are first to act. We decide to c-bet for $40, which only the big blind calls. So I'm putting him on maybe a weaker jack, or he hit a pair or a pocket pair, hoping he doesn't have a huge hand and he's trapping. Turn comes, a complete blank, doesn't change the board at all. The 2 of hearts, but it does introduce a heart flush draw, which I'm not super concerned about because I do hold the ace of hearts in my hand. So at this point, the stack to pot ratio is very small, so I decide I'm going to want to play for stacks by the river. So I'm thinking about what bet sizing to use that I'll get a call, and then I can make a relatively easy shove on the river and get another call. So I bet $75, which he makes the call. And so the river comes an offsuit 3, doesn't change the board at all. Once again, I still think I have the best hand. And considering I only have about a 1/3 pot size bet, I have a pretty clear all-in for $111, which the villain tanks for a little bit, but at the end of the day, makes the call. And we are good with ace-jack offsuit.
All right, guys. Thank you for watching the latest episode at Hook Poker. That was vlog number 2. Hope you guys enjoyed. As you guys saw, the quality went up pretty high. We had a new card reader for all of you guys to see, and I hope you guys enjoyed that. We took a lot of time and really put some effort into it. Shout out pokerbankrolltracker.net for that. Check them out, download the app, get on with that, count your money, do what you got to do. But once again, thank you guys for watching. I hope you enjoyed. Like, subscribe, share it with your friends. Drop a comment down below. Let us know what you think of the latest video. We'll see you in the next one.
Yeah, guys, and we're going to try to get a vlog out once a week, probably around Wednesday, Thursday, Saturday-ish, maybe even Monday, who knows. But, yeah, just subscribe so you know when we're coming out with new content. All right, see you in the next one.